Premium cards used to actually mean premium,
Mm,
just not even that long ago. So when they first kind of started really hitting the market, I would say 2016 was when the
yeah,
Sapphire Reserve came out. You
yeah.
can actually go to Hertz's Messenger on Facebook, message them that you have this card, and they'll give you Hertz presidential status, like completely for
Hmm.
free. So denial doesn't always mean denial forever. You have
Right.
usually 30 days to call that reconsideration line and to get it overturned. But if not, sometimes then it's just you're denied. It's probably because you're applying for cards that you're not actually eligible to get, or ones
Mm.
that just require more and more.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here, CEO and founder of 850 Club Credit. Listen, we have yet today another guest speaker, and I'm excited to talk to this guy because every time we talk is always a party. Okay. But either way, listen, get your notepads out. If you all want to learn specifically about certain types of credit cards, what these banks are looking for, and how to build the right relationships, even if you've been denied and things of that sort, we got questions loaded up, but we don't have a lot of time. Okay. So without any further ado, want to go ahead and bring to the front Mr. Anthony Venture. Anthony, how are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. They got the pen and paper, but I got the credit cards just whipped out and
There
ready.
you go. Can't even close
Got
that
'em.
wallet.
Oh yeah, no, this is the George Costanza wallet people call it. Yeah, it's
That's insane. That's insane, man. Well, listen, that's why we brought you here because Anthony only talks about credit cards that he has. Okay, so it's not a lot of speculation because there's a lot of YouTube channels out here, right, Anthony? That just talks about cards, but they don't have them, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's some cases of that, and I do agree that I think it's okay for like speculating on cards you don't have, but I
Yeah.
think it's good to have like adjacent knowledge. Like, oh, if there's a new
Yes.
credit on a credit card or a new rule on a bank, it's like, oh, I've dealt with
Yeah.
this in another name for another bank, so I think it works. But if you just have no idea, you're just starting out, and you're
Yeah.
just talking about it, yeah, it's tough because there's so much misinformation and so much you can like mislead people by doing it that way. Yeah,
That's right.
agreed.
That's right. And listen, guys, you don't have to worry about misinformation here. This is based on the knowledge that Anthony has right now. Because banks do change things, right? They change things with credit cards all the time. It's one of those industries where they can just do that. I see people get approved, with lower scores, and I've seen people get declined at higher scores. So they can easily change things. But let's get right into it. Speaking of that, so when a bank denies a credit card application, what are the immediate steps that you think someone should take to understand the reason to improve their chances next time? Because you've been denied for a credit card in the past, right, Anthony? We all have.
Yeah, I was denied for 3 in the last week. So so yeah, I'm very familiar. So, I
There
guess it
you go.
depends on what side of the game you're on. If you're just getting started out, you're usually getting
Yeah.
denied because you have no credit history, and it's the biggest catch-22 in the world because you need some credit history to be able to get a credit card.
So here at 850 Club Credit, mi gente, we're always trying to find out new ways to help you stay on top of your credit and finances. So if you're ready to finally organize your credit cards and payments all in one place, download our free credit card tracker. It's a simple Google Sheet that helps you manage up to 15 cards, track your payments, and stay on top of your finances. All you need to do is just scan the QR code or check the description box below for instant access.
But you can only get credit history really if you have a credit card, obviously barring
Yeah.
student loans and all these different things. So if you're just getting started out, my first thing is like if you're denied, it's probably because you're applying for cards that you're not actually eligible to get, or ones
Mm,
that just require more and more credit history. So like I tell everybody, as long if you're just getting started out trying to get your first credit card, I don't know. Chase Freedom Rise, very easy to get approved for. If that denies you, go for a Capital One secured card, Discover secured card, put down a deposit. You have a 99% of approval odds. You'll get your first credit card. Use that for 12 months. You'll have a good credit score, and then you'll be eligible to get all the other cards. If you already have a few cards, or maybe like you have 5, something like that, and you're starting to get denied, it could be for a number of other reasons. When you're in this middle range, a lot of it could be just the bank specific rules. Like, for example, Chase has their 524 rule. If you already have 5 credit cards in the last 2 years from any issuer, so Amex, if you have a couple Chase cards, have a couple Capital One cards, 5 of those in the last 2 years. If you try to go for a Chase card, once you're over that 524 limit, Chase will start denying you for some of those credit cards. Citibank has this as well. They call it 624, even though it's kind of relaxed, but that's also their own rule. So a lot of these banks have specific rules on, oh, maybe they have too many inquiries. Did you apply for too much credit or apply for too many different loans, like home loans, car loans, what have you? They're a little bit more sensitive towards that. Then that also can hurt you in those cases. And then when you get to the very end of the spectrum, kind of like, I don't know if I would say I'm end game. I'm like 30 cards. I've close to 30 credit cards right now. And I would say in that case, a lot of it is dependent on, yeah, exactly what banks you're going for, what cards are even left to get. And then for the ones that you're eligible to get, yeah, how many inquiries do you have? How many in the last 2 years? Stuff like that. So that's why the main thing I would say. And as far as like getting denied, you could
Yeah,
do a couple of things. If you're getting denied and you're like, okay, I think I should have gotten approved, you can call the credit card reconsiderations line. If you look on Doctor of Credit, they have their
huge.
own yeah, they have their own telephone lines. You can call them up. I've called
Wow.
3 in the last like 2 days to try to get reapproved. So basically you can call them and say, hey, I got denied. Wondering why I was denied. And sometimes they'll say, wait for the letter. But if you push a little bit further, they'll tell you the reasons why. It could be too much credit limit. And if they say it's too, like, we're extending you already too much limit, you have 3 cards that have, 10K limits. It's like, that's too much based on your income. You could tell them, like, okay, if that's true, can you divert some of that credit limit from my other cards
Wow.
and move it to this new card I just applied for to get approved? So this way you're not extending more credit to me. It's the same limit, but at least I can get approved for a new card and start using that with that bank. So that works like a lot of the time, as long as you're not like, 30 cards deep and stuff like that. A lot of the times that does work. A lot of the times, actually, if you get denied, surprisingly, it's sometimes due to just error in your application. You could have just been, I don't know, you could have put your social security number in wrong, or you could have moved addresses and that
Yeah.
bank didn't have the updated address. So sometimes it's just a user error or an input error. And
Mm,
sometimes when you call them, they could be like, what's the address we have on file for you? Okay, no, you have a new one? Okay, cool. And then once you verify that, they'll actually get you approved. So denial doesn't always mean denial forever. You have
right.
usually 30 days to call that reconsideration line and to get it overturned. But if not, sometimes then it's just a time issue, and you just wait a few more months, let some inquiries drop off your account, and stuff like that, I would say. Mhm.
Wow. And guys, listen, this is coming from someone. He just said, listen, he got a denial not too long ago, okay? In the last
Mhm.
week or so. But that's part of the game. And I want everyone to understand that that's part of the game, right? There's gonna be some cards that you know should be approved for. But for whatever reason they say no. But then there's a lot of times too where a lot of these computers are making the decision. And that's why you should consider, the reconsideration line and say, hey, is there a reason why? Can you explain why I want to do business with you? So just one of those ways to kind of think about it, but you can always circle back. I'm sure there's been cards that you've applied for where you got denied, and then of course you reapplied later down the line and obviously got that approval. Okay, so
Oh yeah.
let's go into premium cards, because these are cards that people typically get when their credit scores are over at minimum 680. They built some relationships with some prominent banks, the big banks, Chase Bank, and so on and so forth. But the thing is about premium cards in general, outside of the higher annual fees, why do you feel that everyone doesn't need them as much as they used to back in the day? What's your opinion on that?
Premium cards used to actually mean premium,
Mm,
just not even that long ago.
right.
When they first kind of started really hitting the market, I would say 2016 was when the
Yeah.
Sapphire Reserve came out, kind of in competition with the Amex Platinum card that has already
Yeah.
existed, I think, 10 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And so the Sapphire Reserve came out in 2016, and that's kind of when the whole boom started on YouTube with Credit Card YouTube and saying like, oh, now we have these credit cards like the Amex Platinum card, which I think at that time was a 450 annual fee.
Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you got to do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
And
Yeah.
the Sapphire Reserve also launched at a 450 annual fee, and it came with perks that credit cards didn't really have before. I mean, in the past, it
Mm,
was more so just a tool to use to pay for things that gradually over time became more of like a membership to a gym or what have you that has a certain amount of perks or amenities. So like when those cards launched, you were like, wait a second, I could pay $450 for a card every single year, which was kind of taboo in some cases, like paying for a credit card. Like it's like, the banks are happy to have your business, but now you're paying to have them a happy business, right? So then you have these cards, and they give you access to certain things that most people don't have access to, like say the Amex Platinum card, at least in its current form. you now have lounge access during your airport experience. So when you're at the airport, everybody complains about being in the terminal. People have complained about this for, since aviation started, or at least the major airports have started. I don't want to sit in the terminal. There are these special areas of the airport we could sit in, and we can be protected from the proletariat, the common man, right? And I could just pay $450 a year, and I could have, perfect lounge access where it's quiet. I could charge, I could work, and they have free food and stuff like that. Like it's a whole culture around it. But slowly but surely, what people found is that while these perks were great, and while the advent of social media and people talking about these premium cards has been great, and I'm also someone who's done that over the years, so many people got these cards. And for American Express, they have always gotten record acquisitions for their premium credit cards, ones with annual
Yep.
fees. So more cards, more annual fees, higher annual fees, more to the bottom line. The business does better. They're incentivized to give more and more people cards. So like anybody with a basically 670, 680 credit
Yep.
score and above can get a platinum card. I mean, basically, I got one when I was 22. Like no 22-year-olds should really have that unless they're traveling like
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah,
And
for
so now
real.
everybody has a platinum card. Now it's just like, now where's the luxury? What once was luxury because a few people, had the
Yeah.
specific card, and it was like, oh wow, you have a platinum card. Wow. Now it's everybody has them. So once everyone has something, it's no longer luxury. It's now you're just
Mm.
common. So now
Yeah.
the lounges are overcrowded, and all of the credits and benefits become more great, harder to use, and so I don't know, I think over time just the general aura of premium credit cards and what they can give you has kind of waned as
Yeah.
everyone's kind of been doing it. And also, what I found personally is I've experimented with this because I've loved the things that the premium cards have offered, but I've also found that you can actually get basically 90% of all the things the premium cards offer completely
Yeah.
for free if you're just a little bit creative. Like, for an example, I don't know. People love having car rental status. They're like, oh, I want Hertz presidential status. I want to choose my own car when I go to the airport. Walk down the
Yeah.
line and say, I'm at the president's circle. You want this Camaro? You got it. And people are like, oh, with the platinum card, you have president's circle. Okay, well, what I
Mm.
found out is if you just have any MasterCard World Elites, so Chase Freedom Flex, $0 annual fee, a built MasterCard, I don't know, a City Strata, look at your card, the back of it, if it says MasterCard World Elite, you
Yeah.
can actually go to Hertz's Messenger on Facebook, message them that you have this card, and they'll give you Hertz presidential status, like completely for
Mhm.
free, for no annual fee
Wow.
card. And there's so many little, I could go off forever for like the little things you could do, like with cards to get you, access for free. But yeah, that's the general. That's a general take on why premium was
Yeah.
premium, and now that it's
Yeah.
shifting away from it as they make things harder and it's more common, I would say.
Absolutely. And you know what is that I feel you on that one because I think also too what we do probably plays a role because now we're educating people that
Oh yeah,
probably never thought about specific cards or people have never at least on my end people that didn't even qualify, for those types of
yeah,
cards and now that their scores are in that range, they're starting to get the attention of these financial institutions. So
yeah.
this is their first time getting something from Amex. This is their first time seeing something from Chase or a different type of chase offer, So at the end of the day, of course, obviously me and Anthony, we know what premium is, but sometimes people are just getting started in that mid
Yeah.
premium, range where you're just starting to get that first Discover card, so or that, that Chase Freedom card when you're kind of starting
Mhm.
out. So, but still keep an eye on those things though, guys, and kind of settle your expectations. Obviously, there's still some perks that are out there too, but that's another thing too, Anthony. Some of these credit cards companies have been like removing perks. You've been seeing that a lot recently, right?
So I guess a lot of these companies have found over time that again, with all of these crazy amount of acquisitions and the
Yeah.
growth of just credit card YouTube as a whole, my community is I would say in the best terms, in the best terms possible. Like I am a vampire sucking
Listen.
ruiner of value. Like I am someone you do not
Yeah.
want as a customer because I'm going to get as much value as I can out of your credit card or what you're offering as possible. You will not make money on me, even though they make money on everybody. So it's like
Right.
if
Yeah.
so, the main thing is like I'm getting the bonuses, I'm using the credits to the best of their ability. They're
Yeah.
expecting the majority of people, like 99% of people, to not use most of the perks. It's very much the Planet
Hmm.
Fitness model of get as many people signups as possible. Get 1,000 people
Yep.
in the gym. We don't care. Only
Right.
5% of our user base is actually going to go and use the gym. So like we just
Absolutely.
make more money and
Absolutely.
it doesn't devalue the gym.
Yeah.
Same goes for these cards. They raise the annual fees so they get more profits. They add
Yeah.
more credits and coupons that says there's perceived more value. So you pay $700,
Mm,
but it's perceived $1,500 in value. They know, well, the term breakage, which is the amount of credits and coupons they give you, they know that it's never going to be used. And
yeah.
so they give you perceived value that you'll likely never use, and they profit more as the banks. But now that there's more and more people like me, bottom feeding, whatever, uh, with scoundrels,
You're
uh,
maximizing it. You're
we're
maximizing it.
maximizing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They've tried to hurt the credit card community in a way so that we can't
Mm,
maximize as much as possible. Like I'll give an example. Sapphire Reserve launched in 2016. Like I
yeah.
mentioned earlier, they have not changed the card until 2 months ago. So it's been 9 years in the making. They revamped it.
Wow.
Every change that they made was directly in spite of everyone who could maximize credits and stuff like that. And as an
Yeah.
example, they came out with a credit called the $500 edit credit, and it comes
Mm,
in $250 intervals every 6 months. So every 250, you could use it towards an edit hotel. Edit hotel
yeah.
is just like the most luxurious level of, call it, Chase's travel portal. So these are
Mm,
hotels that give you credits, they give you upgrades, late checkout, all these nice things.
yeah.
They, instead of making it easier, which would be, oh, let's give you 500, they split it up 250 every 6 months. So that already makes it harder to use. On top of that, you could have made it so that it was 250 on a one night stay, but no, they
Yeah.
made it a $250 perk, minimum 2 night stay. And these are, like I
Mm,
said, luxurious hotels. So they're like,
yeah.
at least the cheapest you could find is maybe $300-400 a night. So you're paying after tax
Yeah.
and fees, $800 at the door to use that $250 credit. So you're overspending on their programs that they own, keeping the
Hmm.
money in the family. So that's
That's right.
another thing too was they knew that the credit card community, when this launches were confirmed and rumors are coming around, they knew everybody would just upgrade their Sapphire Preferred
That's
to
right.
this reserve. So this way they could lock in the lower annual fee and get all the benefits. But they said no. Actually, how about this? Anybody who is upgrading to the card or just getting it before these dates, you now won't get all of the new perks and benefits until October. So like it was like 5 months into the future. Like you're not going to get anything for 5 months. So this way,
Yeah.
at least they save 6 months of credits and benefits people would be using. And then you'll have to pay that adjusted 795 annual fee because they raised it about $240 for this. So
Wow.
it's just a lot of that. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
It's
you know what though? I'm glad you broke it down like that too, because like you said, there are some people out here. I mean, here's the thing. First off, I want everyone to know this: it's nothing wrong with having a card and maximizing the benefits, because at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah,
day, like it's like Anthony said when he first got on here, he's not going to be letting these companies make money off of him. And if you use the credit card right, they shouldn't be able to, because
yeah.
you're swiping for something, you're waiting to pay for it, pay it back when the bill is due. No, to like take care of that less than 30 days, guys. So again, just little things like that. But I like how you break that down, because they also position themselves at the end of the day. It's like the what was that? I forgot the numbers on this, but like when something has like a rebate on it, the chances of people actually following the steps to get the rebate, so everyone doesn't use a lot of the perks that's out there. And like you said, with the hotels as well too, they're like, listen, if we end up doing this or giving this perk, we need a minimum 2 night stay. So they're making
Yeah.
money regardless. So I'm sure no one really cares about what they do. But again, make sure that we got these cards and we're using them. Otherwise, you're going to end up wasting money, especially for those annual fees.
Yeah, and I'll just say, because I get a little bit too in the weeds sometimes, so sorry for everyone's watching.
It's all good.
I'll just say on the most basic level, one thing I always urged was I was somebody who had like the Amex Platinum card for too long. I got it when it was a
Mm,
550 annual fee. I paid that. It went up to 695. I paid that. The next year came by. The next year came by. I just kept paying it. But what I found was
yeah.
once I ended up paying, whatever that math would end up being, probably like close to $2,500 in annual fees. And over time, I did get good value, but I don't think I actually beat the value of the annual fees over time, because you forget to
Mm,
use perks, or some
yeah.
perks, yeah, they just get left by the wayside, or you overspend to use some of the perks. So one thing I always urge is like, yeah, I think get the premium card, climb the ladder, get a green, get a gold, get a platinum. The other issue is as well, get all those points because those points are valuable, but once you start finding that the perks are annoying to use, like, oh, now I have to
Mm,
remember to use this. Like, I remember one time I
yeah.
used one of my credits like on the last 2 days of the year because like it
Just to
resets in
forcing
January.
yourself.
Yeah. So once it gets to that point, you're like, those annual fees are going to eat into whatever sign up bonus that you ever got. So I would say cut it as soon as you can, as soon as you find that the perks are annoying, or I don't know, you learned the lessons of the card, you thought it was cool, but not necessarily worth it. Just kind of cut it when that time comes. It's not going to hurt your credit score. If you're already at that level, getting those premium credit cards, you already have enough padding and
That's right.
foundation that it's really not going to hurt you. So don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
It's something I worried about a lot early on, but then now I just cancel all of them. Screw it. But it's just saying annual fees will eat into any value you get over time if you let it. So try to cut those as fast as possible, I would say.
And by cut, you mean cancel.
Cancel them. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
Want to make sure people got clarification here. So
it'll be tough to cut the metal card. You'll need like the Joe Barretto pliers, but
yeah, man. But I'm glad you brought that up, because see, these are problems that people start having. I won't say problems, but I would say, and these are good problems anyway, but these are like scenarios that people are in as you start getting multiple credit cards. And guys, this even goes on the like beginning stages as well. As you start saying yes to all these people and having all these perks and things of that sort, it becomes a lot for some of you all to keep up with it and then try to still maximize the value while still paying, of course, the annual fees. But Anthony brought up another great point, and that is it's okay not only to close that card out, but you have so many others open. And you don't have to have 30 to be in this position. You could be like 5 and still be okay. Okay. So again, don't force yourself to keep a card just to have the perks if it's not making sense. Just something to keep an eye on, unless that's what you want to do. Now, you also mentioned too that you said goodbye to almost all of your American Express cards. And it takes a lot for you, Anthony, to actually cancel a card. And not in a bad way, but just like, okay, that's a tough decision to make. But what made you say, okay, you know what? I got rid of almost all of them. Where are we at now with those?
So again, I don't know how into the weeds we should get, but I'll do a basic idea
Keep it
on this.
simple,
So
but do you think?
my idea nowadays, now like I said, look, I've been in the game, I guess 7 years now, a little more than 7 years now, from my first, Capital One secured card and my Kohl's card to now,
Wow.
or at least at that time before I started canceling.
Yeah.
I had I ended up, I think the most I ever had was probably like 2,500 in annual fees every year. It was like 2 platinum cards, a lot of 95, a lot of 150 annual fee cards, stuff like that. But one thing that I found after like really thinking about my setup, and honestly what kind of triggered a lot of it was our recent trips, more specifically our recent trip to Greece. We went to Greece a couple months ago for my wife's birthday, and it was an amazing trip, and it was literally the best trip of our entire lives. One thing that I learned was that some of the perks that all of these premium cards kind of offer, like I mentioned earlier, like lounge access or access to certain hotel programs, or I don't know, certain statuses, things that I really loved on these cards, I realized that, well, one, none of those actually came into effect on this trip, because at this point in my trip 2 months ago, I already had canceled all of my high annual fee cards. So, platinum cards, pretty much anyone that was above 150, I canceled, because, well, I had some cards that had access to, let's just break it down to lounge access. So, like, I was in London, I was in Amsterdam, I was in Greece, and then I was at my home airport of Charlotte. I have a simple card with priority pass lounge access, and I was able to get access to nice lounges in all the areas. It really was like no different than between those and the highest end lounge access, other than the food. And the food was, worse on these like lower end lounges, but we're not even people that really care about the food as much on the higher end lounges anyway. It's not like,
Yeah.
it's still not Michelin star stuff. Like, it's not amazing food that you, so basically you're just going there, and especially in our cases, like going to the airport earlier just to have, access to the lounge, 3 hours
Right.
before. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd rather just sleep in or get to the airport later and then not have to worry about going to the lounge. So like, I don't know, this trip opened my eyes. Like, all the things that I thought I cared about on the platinum, or like any of the high end premium cards, I was able to make do for free on some other cards, and didn't even need it all on this, like, big international trip. Didn't need any of those perks at all, like literally none of it. So then what I started thinking was, okay, what about this? Everyone's writing and raving about the new Sapphire Reserve. It's a $795 annual fee card every year. Couldn't I just do better if I save that $800 and just use that cash to book like awesome tours in a different area, in the places, the destinations I'm
excursions.
traveling to, or or the food that you're doing, the excursions that you're doing, or if that's already covered, you have a travel fund, what have you. Couldn't I theoretically just get like 8 new $95 annual fee cards that all have their own welcome offers that could all generate me like hundreds of thousands of points that can help me book more and more travels all across the world than just worrying about, oh, one card that has a $250 credit that I can use. I'm like,
Yep.
these cards can offer thousands and thousands of dollars on just like a couple cards. You can get a couple cards and get a couple $1,000 vacation done. Why am I worried about a $250 credit? I shouldn't be. I'm not. So I canceled them
Yeah.
all. So I stopped worrying about the small money, the credits on these high cards, found
Yeah.
ways to take all the things I love from the high ones and get them for free
Yeah.
in other cards, and then just apply for cheaper cards with $0 annual fee and
Yeah.
upwards to like 95, 150, because you can get it all with all of those and do way better, I would say, and save money. you know,
And save
that's
money. That's
yeah,
huge. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that too. A lot of times people think or they associate the word premium with credit cards that have these annual fees.
yeah.
Now, just to be clear, guys, there are some great cards out there with no annual fee. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so like we just helped one of our clients get an American Express Business Plus card,
Oh
and
nice.
there's no annual fee. And you get two essentially 2 points for every dollars that you spend, and this is again with American Express. Now, there are no other perks, but there's no annual fee. So again, it just depends on what are you going to maximize.
Yeah.
Some of these things are great to have, but if you're not using it, then it's a waste, especially if you have an annual fee. So
Yeah.
just keep those things, in mind as well too. So, yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Let's go to another thing I want to talk about as well too. You talked about some of the biggest mistakes that some people make when they're choosing a new credit card from their bank, and how can they avoid those mistakes as well?
So I guess mistakes on choosing the card from certain banks. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it will just come down to is just the individual and their goals for the future. So like
Yeah.
you mentioned that there's a lot of great cards that have $0 annual fees, and
Yeah.
I guess one way I like to think about it is, especially when you're early on and you're somebody who is either getting their first credit card, building their credit, maybe has hopes to travel in the future. I think that's safe to say. I think everybody wants to travel in the future. I think everybody wants that. So in my mind, I just think, okay, how can I set myself up not just for, a 1 year plan, a 2 year plan, but, a 10-year plan? And how everyone talks about travel funds and whatnot, why not get that started today and use our credit cards to get that done? And one thing that I found is that there are a lot of cards you can get today, with virtually, with low credit scores, and for the most part, early on in the game, you can effectively earn cash back if that's what you want. But if you choose the right cards, that cashback can also turn into travel points, travel miles for the future. So I'll give an example. Let's say you're somebody just kind of really getting started out, first 1 to 5 credit cards. You don't really care about travel right now. Maybe money's tight, but you know for the future. Like when I was getting started when I was 21, I knew I wanted to travel in the future. Like everybody wants a vacation, nobody doesn't want to, except for my brother-in-law. He's the only one that doesn't want a vacation. Anyway, what thing you could do is get a card, like call it the let's go with this example first. Let's go with the Capital One Saver. So the Capital One
Yeah.
Saver has a $0 annual fee, so no risk there. It earns
Right.
3% back on your groceries, on your dining, and I think it's like up to 8x on entertainment, stuff like that. But the main
Yeah.
thing is you're going out to eat and you're getting groceries and you're getting 3% back on all those purchases. That's powerful, and you're profiting from your first purchase. It's a $0 annual fee card. The first purchase you make, you profit. So that's
Yep.
money. That's
Yep.
money in your pocket. And if you
Yep.
so choose to just build up that, that cash stack, and you want to use that to pay your bills or what have you, cool. But if you just don't sit that, if you don't do anything, you don't touch it at all, you just let that cash back sit, and you know that you're calling this your travel fund for the future,
Yeah.
a few years down the line, you might have accumulated well over, $500 in cash back, or $600 in cash back, what have you. What you could then do is when this time comes and money's, less tight and all that, you can now apply for a Capital One Venture card, like I did recently. This card has a $95 annual fee, so still not crazy overhead. It's a little bit, but we can talk about how to mitigate that afterwards. So
Yeah.
$95 annual fee, and it can give you an offer of like 100,000 points. Now, stay with me. Now, when that happens, what you can effectively do is when you have the saver card, or when you get the venture card, that actually unlocks the ability to turn your cash back into miles for travel. So like that $500 in cash back, if you never used it, never spent, you're like, now it's time to travel. You can actually convert it to 50,000 Capital One miles, and that plus the welcome offer of the venture card of like 100,000, you now have 150,000 miles that you've been building up over this time, and that is, yeah, that can get you some good things. 150,000 Capital One miles could get you a nice premium economy ticket to, you know, Germany and back, call it, and then you'll have enough left over to kind of book some hotels. So that's one way you can kind of set yourself up for the future and still earn some cash. Because if you get to that point, 5 years down the line, whatever, you have $500 cash back, $1,000 cash back. Sure, you know, pay your bills, whatever. But if you know travels in the future, you can kind of set yourself up. So the main thing is, to your question, like, what are the mistakes? I think the mistakes is like you said earlier, when you kind of just you know, you're promiscuous with your credit card signups. Like you just you just
all over
get
the place.
approved. Yeah, you just get approved for any card that gets thrown at you. Like I remember getting approved for, like I said, Capital One Secured, then Kohl's, then Merrick Bank, which ended up canceling because I never used it. And then I had like a Yada card. There's like a few different cards, and you basically get so many different credit cards, but you never really refine your system. And to where I agree, I think it's better to just kind of pick one system, pick one ecosystem that you're already kind of familiar with, and just kind of go with that. So like if it's Capital One, just use your Capital One cards for a while, get the venture down the line, and then a couple years after that, get a Venture X. You know, now you're getting into the more mid-tier premium cards again. So I think it's setting yourself up for the future and not being, I don't know, not just throwing yourself at any card that sends you a mailer. Just kind of like, go with Capital One easy early on. Go with Citi early on. You know, Chase early on. These are cards with no annual fees that you can build up cashback or miles for travel in the future. So I think you could get the best of both worlds doing that. Yeah.
That's huge, man. That's huge. You know, we got to bring you back for a segment on travel hacking, man. I know you've been doing a great job saving money there. We ain't got to go into it now because we're going to save that for another time for sure, Anthony. But listen, we greatly appreciate you being here today, you know, taking away time again from your family, your own YouTube channel, which, by the way, guys, Anthony breaks a lot of these specific cards down, his process and things of that sort. So, of course, if you like this video, you're most definitely going to love the content that he creates. And speaking of which, Anthony, is there anything that you want to leave with the audience before we get out of here today?
We talked about a lot, and thank you for the shout out and inviting me and everything.
Man.
So we talked about a lot. I get it. I go into the weeds. It's a problem of mine. I get really excited about like really small little granular things. But the main thing is get your first credit cards, use them, go with what we said. I think the smartest way is to go with these ecosystems that can be converted to travel in the future. I think that's the smartest way because you get the best of both worlds. Use those, you know, day in and day out. Build up your credit score, build up your cash stack, build up your mile stack, and you're going to be fine. Obviously, pay your bills, you know, on time. You know, don't let any things accrue. No interest, all those different things. I mean, life happens, you know, but you know, the main thing is keeping those under control, using your card responsibly, and you'll be able to earn some money back on your everyday spending and/or travel, take your family on a vacation for the future too. So it's not as complicated as I make it seem. You know, when you get to 30 credit cards, you try to figure out other ways to maximize. So you know, you don't have to worry about that. You got like, you know, many years.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Anthony. We greatly appreciate you stopping by the channel. And actually, you're going to be sticking around to answer a couple of questions for our elite community. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to that. And thanks again for stopping by. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this video and you want us to bring Anthony back, put in the comments, bring him back. Thanks again, Anthony. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.